What's up, you guys? Today we're going to be reviewing a new bike for the channel sent to me by Senada Bikes. Now, this bike was sent to me for free, but they did not pay me for this review, and everything that you hear in this review and test ride will be my own opinion, and I'm going to be upfront and honest with you guys about everything that we see when we open this box up. We're going to assemble it, take it out for a few rides, and then I'm also going to do a follow-up video a little later, a week down the line, and even a month down the line, to let you know how things have held up over time. So let's open up this box and get right to it. All right, looks like this will be probably the charger, I'm assuming, in this box. Well, it looks to be really well packaged, which I appreciate. I know a lot of people, when they get e-bikes, tend to have issues with damage during shipping. So it's good to see they use plenty of foam in the process. The bike also arrived fairly quickly without any issues, so that's great. That's everything in the box. So we'll go ahead and move this out of the way. Okay, so really quickly we'll go through what's in this box here. Looks like they have the pedals as expected. Some bolts to assemble, I'm assuming, probably the front handlebars and maybe the rack in the rear. 4 small zip ties, probably for some cabling. And look at this. A pretty nice metal 15, looks like a 15 on both sides, closed end and open end wrench. You don't see that very often with these bike companies, so that's nice to see. A Senada Bikes installation manual, and this is a Sabre and Herald, which is both versions, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Looks like they've also included, pretty interesting, an Allen set. Don't recognize the brand, obviously, but looks like it's pretty good quality so far. I mean, we'll open it up and we'll test it out and see how it does. Nice that it comes in a plastic case so you can keep it all in one place. And then, as expected, the charger. So we'll open this up first. Fairly nice packaging here. Find out how many amps this is. Okay, so it's a lithium-ion battery charger. It's 54.6 volts at 2 amps, so it's a 2 amp charger, which isn't too bad. Pretty standard, actually. Really nice looking. It's got your standard power cable on one side and then an attached cord that plugs into the battery itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get this battery started and charging and then finish up with this assembly. Okay, before I start charging, I'm going to remove a few of these items. One is going to be this wheel here. Really thick, heavy-duty zip ties. I'll go ahead and remove the wheel and fender and set that back here for right now. Now we can turn this fork in the right direction. I'd like to get to this battery, start charging. So I'm going to cut some tape off here. I gotta say, guys, the packaging here is really great. I mean, it may be a little tedious to get all this off, but the protection that it offers and knowing that you're not going to have any issues with shipping damage, it's really great peace of mind. Because one thing that's really frustrating is when you first get a bike, that there's already scratches or damage to the bike. It's just a really frustrating thing to have happen. And in this way, with all of this foam and protection, you know that you're not going to have, or hopefully you won't have, any issues. All right, so now we've got the foam protection off the battery. We're going to go ahead and remove the battery and hook it up to the charger and get that going while we finish assembling the rest of the bike. Like I said, I will be pointing out a lot of the positives here, but I'm also going to definitely let you know if there's anything I see that just isn't the way that it should be. Now we'll remove this battery pack. So there's the battery itself. It's a 48 volt system. So 48 volts 21 amp hours, so 1008 watt hours on this battery. Really nice looking battery. It's got a battery meter on top here. It also looks like, I'm not sure, I'd have to double check, there's a power button. It says it's at 100%, which is good. And it looks like this might be some sort of, I'm not sure if that's a mount for a camera, but that'd be really cool if that is on the side of the battery. But anyways, let's go get this thing on the charger and make sure it's topped off so that we're ready to ride as soon as we get done doing all this. All right, we got the battery charging. Now we're gonna go through, take the rest of the foam off and go ahead and put the bike together. It's got a great looking seat. Looks to be super comfortable and soft. We'll find out if that's true or not. I don't think I've ever seen a bike this well protected. Pretty impressive, I gotta admit. Okay, we're getting close. Let's get the wheel over here. Tires seem to be somewhat inflated, not all the way inflated obviously, but okay, so it looks like there is a bar in there with nuts on each side, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Very interesting way to protect the fork. Never seen anything like that on a bike, to keep the fork spaced out so that it doesn't accidentally bend in shipping. Okay, and then we are going to just basically lift this up and over, and I'm going to start by setting the fork in place, and then if I need to add a washer or anything like that in there, I'm going to go ahead and do that in a second. So you've got your front forks there, going to sit on that axle. Also need to make sure that the brakes are properly aligned. There isn't a spacer on the brakes, which I find kind of interesting. Usually on the front brake pads you'll see a spacer, plastic spacer in between those pads so that they don't accidentally get squeezed by the handles. Not a big deal, but just interesting. There's the bike. It's all set up, so now we can put the kickstand down. And it's not fully assembled. We still need to tighten those nuts on the front and put the lock washers on, but we're getting to the point where now the bike can stand on its own. Okay, so when you're installing this, there is a washer with a little flange on it that goes in and down where the hole is for the axle when you put the wheel on the fork, and then you put the regular washer, and then you put the nut. I'm assuming this is a 15, so this nice wrench that they give you, I'm sure will do a great job. Yep. Well, that really is handy to have a solid wrench to be able to put your bike together. You know, it just makes it that much easier. You don't have to go get tools, because usually the tools that they send you with these bikes are not worth it. But this metal wrench is amazing. Now I'm assuming we're going to need our Allen set. I'll use the set that they sent us so we can kind of get an idea of what that's like. Actually, interesting material. It's plastic, but it almost feels like textured. Boy, that's actually a really nice set. Ball end Allen set there. All right, well, we got that ready. I'll be going over all the specs, and I even have a discount code for you guys at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that as well. All right, we've got the front stem mount off. We'll go ahead and attach this here. We'll straighten this in a second. First, I want to put these bolts together and get this tightened down a little bit. Be sure that you center it, obviously, and be sure to drop your Allen wrench like a pro. And it's important when you tighten these down, any of these clamps or anything like this, or any brake caliper bolts or anything, you do them in a cross pattern back and forth. You don't ever tighten one down all the way. You want to tighten them all down at the same time evenly. It's also important with these clamp type stem mounts that they're not going to go all the way down, so you want to have equal force on the bottom and top. So it's kind of hard to explain, but basically there's going to be a gap on each side of the plate. You want to make sure it's not all the way one way or all the way the other way. You want it to be kind of even and centered if possible. Check the suspension. Pretty solid. Tires still flat, obviously. So the rear fender is already attached. We'll go ahead and do these back fenders next. All right, we'll go ahead and straighten this seat out. Give that a little bit more tightening there. Okay. Okay, the bike's almost complete. All I have to do now is route this light cable here. Okay, you guys, so here it is, the fully assembled Senada Herald. Now, this bike was sent to me by Senada to review, but they did not pay me to do this review, so everything that I say about this bike will be my own personal opinion. I'm going to go over all of the different features and specifications of the bike. If you need to, you can check the website for anything that I didn't go over, but I'm going to try and touch on every major component and part of this bike. Okay, so going over some of the features of this bike, we'll start with the most important thing that most people are concerned with when they buy an e-bike, which is the battery. The big thing about this battery that I noticed is it is UL certified. So for a lot of people, that's really important. They want to know that the battery is safe to charge and they won't have any issues. So it's a 48-volt system here, and it has 1,008 watt-hours of total storage, which is a fairly large size battery. It's definitely at the top end of what you're going to see in the market. It has the charging port right here, it has an on and off switch, so you can actually turn the battery itself on and off. And it has a gauge up on top here so that you can see if it's full or empty really quick off the bike itself. So you can take this off the bike or you can leave it on the bike depending on how you want to charge and which you prefer to do in your own situation. It also comes with 2 keys, and the key simply goes in here. And what I really like about this setup here is it comes off really easily. And not only that, but once you put the battery in and you go to click it, it makes a great sound and it's very secure. So it locks right in place and you don't have any rattling issues that I know a lot of other manufacturers have with their e-bikes and their removable batteries. This one seems to be really secure, which I like. That's one thing that I've kind of not liked about some of my other bikes. Now moving more towards the rear here, we have this controller. It's a 28 amp controller, 48 volt system, powering a 1,000 watt hub motor with a 1,500 watt peak power output. Now this will also give you 95 Newton meters of torque in case you're interested in any of those specs. And going towards the brakes here in the rear, we have 180 millimeter mechanical disc brakes. We also have this rack, which has a 25 kilogram max capacity, which equals out to about 50 or 55 pounds. You have an integrated brake light, which also has turn signals, which I thought was really cool. So if we turn the bike on here and you turn on the turn signal, it actually has turn signals, which is really cool, and an integrated brake. Now, one of the other features that I really like is at this control here, if you press up, that will turn on the front headlight, which has an integrated horn built into this. It's a 280 lumen headlight. It also has, so you just hold this up button for 3 seconds to turn that on and off. If you press this button down and hold it, it'll give you a walk mode where the bike will move on its own at about, I think, 5 or 6 miles an hour for moving it up hills or somewhere if you want to walk it and, you know, has a slight uphill incline. You can just hold that down button and it'll do walk mode. Now when you're riding the bike, if you hold that button down, it'll give you cruise control. So you just hold the down button for 3 seconds for cruise control. It has a backlit LED display with a 5-bar battery meter. It has a 7-speed Shimano shifter and a half-twist throttle, which goes back here to a 7-speed tourney derailleur and a Shimano crankset there. Also has nice metal wheels which are great. Sometimes people will complain about the cheapness of their pedals. These are metal pedals, which are really quality. It has a double-sided chain guard so that your chain won't slip and fall off like other e-bikes tend to have that same issue. It has a 330-pound total capacity for rider weight and cargo. And it also has front and rear plastic fenders that seem to mount pretty well so far. We'll see how those hold up in the long run, but I'm actually liking them. It's nice when it rains or when there's mud on the trail. You don't have to worry about getting it all over you. And this rack here is metal as well. So overall, I think it's a really good looking bike. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of it. We're going to take it out on a quick test ride. We're going to see what it can do as far as on trails, up hills, top speed, braking. We're going to find out everything about the bike. I'm going to let you know my honest opinion. One last thing about this bike that is kind of nice is it has a 110 millimeter Mozo front fork suspension, and you have a lockout here, so you can do a quarter turn, which will lock out that suspension. And then you also have a preload adjustment, which will adjust the amount of preload the spring has on the front fork. So let's take this thing out and see how it does. And stay tuned for a discount code on this bike. I have a link in the description, and I'm also going to give you a code you can use on the website to get $100 off this e-bike. So let's go see how it does. Okay guys, so one thing I noticed right away is if you press this red button down here by the throttle, it'll deactivate the motor and the throttle, the half twist throttle. So it'll show 008 or 08 here in the display where the wattage is, and that lets you know that the power has basically been shut off, kind of for like safety purposes. If you ever need to turn the power off on the bike real quick to move it or do whatever you're going to do, just a heads up. Overall, I like the bike so far. Very comfortable. The suspension is pretty smooth. Obviously when things are brand new, they work great, but I haven't heard any rattles or noises coming from anything. One thing I noticed is that the bar here is a mountain bike style handlebar, which is a little more forward leaning. So if you like that type of more aggressive riding and forward leaning, this bike has that. My previous bikes have like a BMX style kind of higher rise bar. Depending what you like to do for riding, if you like to be upright more when you ride, or if you like to be a little more down low and kind of in control, you can change those bars out obviously. But that's the first thing I noticed when I got on the bike, is that you're definitely leaning forward and kind of right there, you know, with that angle like you would on a typical mountain bike. One thing I want to check is how fast it can go top speed. So I'm going to go down this straight path over here and cross the street and see. I'm going to put it in a higher pedaling gear, and I'm going to see how fast it can go top speed with a mostly full battery. I didn't charge it all the way to the very, very top till the light turned green on the charger, but I did get it pretty full. Okay, so in pedal assist 5, we're at 26, 27, 27.7, 28.2. Okay, so we hit the 28 miles an hour. I'm wondering with throttle only if we'd be able to get the same top speed. So I'm going to do just throttle only here, pedal assist 5, and see how fast it goes. So we're at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Just a slight uphill here. 25.9, 26.4. So not quite 28 with the twist only, but we were kind of going uphill. So you can almost get that 28 miles an hour out of this bike. And I'm a 225 pound rider, so that's actually really good. I'm pretty happy with that. Really smooth riding, very stable. I don't feel any issues with wobbling or anything like that. It's very planted. I really like the way the power ramps up when you twist the throttle. It doesn't throw you like some bikes do out, you know, off at a million miles an hour. It just kind of smoothly ramps up, which is really nice for riding purposes. All right, we're at the lake. We got about 4 miles on the odometer and the battery still says full when we're stopped. I'm gonna go ahead and go down a really steep hill here and then back up it. It's actually a boat ramp, and that'll give us an idea of kind of how good the motor is up a big hill with a heavy rider, and also how strong the brakes are. Again, I haven't fully bed them in all the way yet, but I think they're about ready to start putting them to the test. And then we're gonna go around the lake and do some trail riding on the dirt, hit a few jumps with this thing and see how it can hold up. The water sure has risen a lot with all the rain we've had lately. These Chaoying tires have a lot of tread. They're really pretty grippy. You can see how these fenders do as well. So on the sand, not too much issue. It's kind of hard packed from the rain recently, but it seems to be holding up well. That front fork is taking a lot of that beating out of it. Solid. All right, let's see how this does going up the hill. I'm not going to use any pedal assist. I'm only going to twist throttle and see if this motor can take me up the hill with just throttle alone. Now again, I am over 200 pounds at 225, so there's not a lot of bikes that can do this. A lot of them will struggle, but I want to see how this can do of a fairly good grade. I'd say this is, I don't know, 10%, maybe 12% grade. It's pretty steep. As you can see here, even this truck is going a little sideways because you can't even see over the top of it. So I'm just gonna start pedaling now. Okay, full throttle only at this point, and I'm gonna go straight up the hill. And we'll see how it does. 19 miles an hour, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12 and a half, 12, 11 and a half. So it did it easily. That's pretty impressive. I mean, I know this is hard to see in the camera, but it's a fairly steep hill. Now, one thing I want to do too is do a quick brake test. So it can definitely lock up the tires. Well, I'm impressed, guys. That went up and down this really steep hill here. Again, I know it probably doesn't come through on the video, probably doesn't look like anything, but it's a fairly steep angle of attack, and it just went up it and down it. No issues. Let's keep riding. Yeah, just right over those curbs, silent. And then here we are up at the top of the end of the lake trail that I like to ride. We're going to kind of take it backwards today. The Senada Herald, guys, what do you think? Leave a comment down below. Price on this bike is $15.49, I do believe, on the website last I checked. If you use my code SS100 for Solar Suron 100, SS100 will get you $100 off at checkout for this bike. So you can get it under $1,500. Can you believe it? I think it's a great value. You know, if you're looking to spend around, you know, $1,000 to $1,500, this is kind of the top end of that price range, but you're really getting a pretty good value, especially on the battery size and the motor. 1,000 watts of power. You have integrated brake lights with turn signals, 7-speed, fat tires. I mean, it's pretty much everything you'd need in an e-bike. 28 mile an hour top speed with a 21 amp hour battery. So the range shouldn't be an issue. I will be doing a long distance range test with this, so stay tuned for that as well. Check out this spot, guys. Beautiful. Wow, guys, really smooth. Overall, this terrain is just really great. I haven't had any complaints with the bike. Everything's been just about what I expected. The motor is powerful, great. Suspension has been holding, tires work well. It's really a good value bike. I mean, for 1,500 bucks, it's pretty solid. It goes up hills without an issue. Oh, look at this, guys. We got a coyote. Check him out. He's just cruising daytime. I wonder what he's out for. Check that out, guys. That's what I love about being in nature and just seeing really cool stuff that, you know, you wouldn't see otherwise. And for me, that's what e-biking is really all about, is, you know, the adventure, not just the street rides. You know, if that's your thing, that's cool too. Able to get up to speed fairly easily. Those fat tires go right over everything. I got some water. Let's see if I can get around this without getting too wet. Oh yeah, muddy mud. And that's where the fenders come in handy. If you notice, this front fender here, something I wanted to talk about, goes down really low. So it really gives you a lot of coverage there when you're going over muddy and wet terrain. A lot of them only come down about this far or here. This front fender comes way down, which actually makes it more useful. A lot of times those fenders just aren't very useful. You know, if they're not long enough, they don't really do the job. So it's kind of pointless. Beautiful day today. A little bit cold, but I can't complain. It's not raining. We've been getting a lot of rain out here lately, and just recently started having a few days in a row where there's no rain, so I figured I'd come out and start getting these bike reviews done. Hey guys, check out this really cool mushroom, fungus, whatever, growing on this tree. How cool that is. Well, I gotta say, it's holding up really well. No issues yet. Putting it through its paces with some jumps and high speed and water and dirt and everything, and it's done really well. No complaints so far. Time will tell on the durability, and we'll check the total range that it can actually do, and we'll let you know. So we've gone 8 miles now total, and there's still 5 bars. So as far as range goes, I don't think you're gonna have an issue. I didn't even fully charge the battery until the charger went green, so I don't think there's going to be any issues as far as range. But stay tuned for a video about how far it can actually go. I'm going to test it fully from top to bottom. Also, follow the yellow brick road. Check out this house. A Tony Montana house. Beautiful. Okay guys, so I had a great time riding this bike. I think that for the price point, with the 1,000-watt motor that hits 1,500 watts peak, 20 mile-an-hour top speed, integrated front and rear headlights and tail lights with the turn signals as well. Cruise control, a 21 amp hour battery. I just don't see how you can really go wrong. You have a rack, you got nice fenders that also cover the whole wheel. As you can see in the front here, you get coverage where the mud is not going to come up and splash all over you like some other bikes do. I really don't think you can go wrong at this price point. Currently, if you use my code SS100, like Solar Suron and 100, you get $100 off at checkout if you use that link in the description with my code. And that brings the bike under $1,500. Currently, I believe it's $1,550 or somewhere right around there. So with the code, you're at like $1,450 for the bike. It's not a bad deal. And I think that with that range, you really have a solid bike that will probably last a long time. It's not making any rattling noises. I haven't had any issues. Even with some of my other bikes, I've had issues with the chain coming off. This has a double chain guard on both sides here. It really has checked a lot of boxes. So if you're interested in this bike, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you buy one or not and what you think of it and what color you got. It's really a great option. I think you can't go wrong. And again, stay tuned for future video updates with this bike for a range test. We're going to do the best case scenario and worst case scenario. I'm also going to do a high speed test with it as well, again, where the battery's completely topped off all the way. I was able to hit 20 miles an hour pedaling and even 26 miles an hour with throttle alone, not even having the battery fully charged. So hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.